Do you feel like they are justified to go after damages in a situation like this? This has been a ongoing saga over the last decade or so, where there have been accusations levied against one person and or a company, and those company and or person has to account for those accusations.
Mm-hmm.
And if you recall, not too long ago, it was back in August, where Linus Tech Tips. Do you guys know the Linus Tech Tips YouTube channel? Have you guys ever heard of this channel before?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We're talking about a very big channel. This is not just like one dude. This is a dude with an entire team that has a big old office, and we're talking about like we're past the point of YouTube channel. We're at a corporation, 15.6 million subscribers over on YouTube. So this is a powerhouse in the space. So they came out, and there were some accusations that were levied against them from a former employee, and they released a statement today over on X, more or less saying they hired a third party, and every accusation that was levied against him was seen as false, was deemed no credibility attached to it. And I wanted to read this off because I feel like this is one of those things that we've seen quite frequently in society as a whole, even outside the video game and YouTube space. But okay, yeah, they posted this yesterday, but either way, it's worth talking about. So here's the post that they made. It says, there were a series of accusations about our company last August from a former employee. Immediately following these accusations, LMG, I guess their company, hired Roper Griel, a large Vancouver-based law firm specializing in labor and employment law, to conduct a third-party investigation. Their website describes them as one of the largest employment and labor law firms in Western Canada. They work both private and public sector employees. To ensure a fair investigation, LMG did not comment or publicly release any data and asked our team members to do the same. Now the investigation is complete. We're able to provide a summary of the findings. The investigation found out claims of bullying and harassment were not sustained. Allegations that sexual harassment were ignored and not addressed were false. Any concerns that were raised were investigated. Furthermore, from reviewing our history, the investigator is confident that if any other concerns had been raised, would have investigated them. There was no evidence of, quote, abuse of power or retaliation. The individual involved may not have agreed with our decisions or performance feedback, but our actions were for legitimate work-related purposes, and our business reasons were valid. Allegations of process errors or miscommunications while onboarding this individual were partially substantiated, but the investigator found ample documentary evidence of LMG working to rectify the errors and the individual being treated generously and respectfully. When they had questions, they were responded to and addressed. In summary, as confirmed by the investigation, the allegations made against the team were largely unfounded, misleading, and unfair. With that said, in the spirit of ongoing improvement, the investigators shared their general recommendation that fast-growing workplaces should invest in continuing professional development. The investigator encouraged us to provide further training to our team about how to raise concerns to reinforce our existing workplace policies. Prior to receiving this report, LMG solicited anonymous feedback from the team in an effort to ensure there was no unreported bullying and harassment, and hosted a training session which reiterated our workplace policies and reinforced our reporting structure. LMG will continue to assess ongoing continuing education for our team. At this time, we feel our case for a defamation suit would be very strong. However, our deepest wish is to simply put all this behind us. We hope that this will be the case, given the investigators' clear findings that the allegations made online were misrepresentations of what actually occurred. We will continue to assess if there is persistent reputational damage or further defamation. This doesn't mean our company is perfect and our journey is over. We are continuously learning and trying to do better. Thank you all for being a part of our community. So, as we see in a lot of these cases where somebody goes out and they say, you're bad, that person then has to go back or that, once again, that person or company has to go back and, I don't know, pick up the pieces of the accusation. We've seen this many, many times where people have been canceled for things they did or didn't do. Maybe they liked a tweet, whatever, and they have to justify these actions based off an accusation right here. I don't really know how to go forward with this outside of, I feel like we've seen this many, many times before. Magic, is this a common occurrence? And in a situation like this, when do you believe the accuser and when do you not?
I mean, I'm still going to just be kind of old school and just hold to innocent until proven guilty. I think it's on the responsibility of the accuser to provide proof or evidence that what they're saying is true. And I think it's really, I don't know how to say it, like just unfair that all the pressure is being put on the person that's being accused to kind of, prove or disprove some allegations or some attack. It's just so, like, just words are cheap, right? It's so easy to be like, oh, I don't like this person, let me slander or defame them, and then put it on them to prove it. So I just think that the accusers, they need to be the ones that come forward with evidence or proof of what they're accusing instead of it being put on the accused.
Lorena, what are your thoughts on this? You hear phrases like, I don't know, to go a little broader, you hear believe all women, right? But it really takes like one woman looking to extort to really blow a hole in that, right? Or in this case, believe all accusers, or these accusations had to be true. And then you see the bandwagon like jump on, right? What do you think a company should do or a person should do when something like this happens? Do you think that they made the right steps, or do you feel like that they should just come out and be like, you're an idiot, what are you talking about? I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I lean towards the "you're an idiot, what are you talking about?" I agree with Magic. It's like if you levy an accusation, the onus is on you to prove your case. Unfortunately, with this whole thing, like you were saying, with believe all women, I'm like, no, you don't believe all women. You need to prove your case. No one should just believe you by default because you happen to be a woman or whatever. That's neither here nor there. If you have something to prove, you need to come out with the proof to do that. But unfortunately, we have got this atmosphere out here where I guess most people forget common sense because common sense is not common. And it's just, did you hear? Oh, that must be true because they said it. No, it's only true if they can prove it. That's why I like when companies are just like, no, it's pretty much baseless because you really don't know until you find out what's going on. So yeah, I just think it's ridiculous that we have this atmosphere now fueled by social media, which it is, that just because someone drops an accusation out there, you should believe them immediately. That's ridiculous.
Warren, you work in you worked with literally, minors, right? Children who are under 18, right? And we've seen this ongoing move towards words or violence, right? Did you ever, or have you ever, been, this goes back to like almost the Twitter uh, discussion, but the idea of if a student, or I don't know, even a friend or somebody was to accuse you of doing something that you didn't do, right? What do you think the proper response is in that situation? And let's just say let's just say professionally, right? I don't know. What do you think the proper? You're extremely logical. What do you think the proper steps are?
I think the world is made up of stories, competing stories. The best story will win, but also the best story will be the best story if it's grounded in truth. And if it's grounded in truth, that gives it a power that some people will fear. And if you find yourself fearing, like as a school, if you're fearing someone speaking the truth, well, that I think you should reflect on how you're conducting yourself. I think that's a reflection on you. There's something off. I think freedom of speech is essential. Is it wrong because I would be a hypocrite if I were to say it's wrong for me to share my story, or I'm not trying to accuse anyone of anything illegal. So perhaps this is a false parallel, but it's extremely important that I have the ability to tell the story of my own life. And I've seen great measures that document would have prevented that. The entire point of that was to prevent me from even being able to acknowledge that a document existed. And for me, it simply comes down to my ability to tell the truth is not for sale. So how do we balance all of this? I think I think everyone should have the right to tell the story of their life. So now perhaps that's not defamation though.
Mm-hmm.
That's not saying this person and you're accusing them of doing something illegal. It's different to say, this was my experience. This is what I witnessed myself. This is how it was articulated to me. And perhaps this is how it's felt for me. That's not necessarily the same thing. So that would be my.
Do you feel like in a situation like this, where you have a company that was accused of something that had to financially, they had to hire another company, a third party, to come in and have an investigation? Let's just say they spent $50,000, right, on this investigation, right? It's a pretty good chunk of change for a YouTube company, right? Do you feel like they are justified to go after damages in a situation like this? And like, let's just say, they're talking about the defamation lawsuit, but I think personally, I feel that if you are out of pocket, X number of dollars trying to defend yourself, in addition to the reputational damage associated with it, the monetary damages as well. I don't know. What are your thoughts on them responding that way? Does it make them look bad? Does it make them look tacky? Or do you think it's justified in a situation like this?
Can you quickly just remind me what the specific accusation is?
Sure. So the accusations were of specifically, they talked about sexual harassment being ignored. She said that there was sexual harassment and they just disregarded it. There was bullying and harassment, and that she said that there are any concerns that she had were not investigated, and there was a investigation about abuse of power or retaliation.
I get you.
So
if she's going to move that into a court proceeding, if she's the one responsible for moving that into a court arena, that's not just telling the story of your life or sharing your experience. You're accusing them in a way that requires legal action. I would say, therefore, yeah, if you put someone through that, you're responsible for that, and you're responsible for your actions and what comes along with that. Yeah, Johnny Depp, Amber Heard, like Johnny Depp sued in that. And defamation it's extremely difficult. Everything you just articulated is extremely difficult to prove. How do you prove bullying, verbal bullying? Like, there's things in my own experiences I can't prove that, and but she's making a specific accusation,
right?
Harassment.
Lorena, what about in the the court of public opinion, right? This didn't go to any sort of legal setting, but the court of public opinion was, hey, Linus Tech Tips is a piece of shit company to work for. Look at these giant pieces of shit, because people are like that. Anytime you see something where there's any sort of accusation, people jump on it. Oh my gosh, this Linus Tech Tips, and I don't know the first thing about it. They may be, or they may not be. I don't know. But as soon as somebody throws out some sort of allegation like that, it's a bomb that causing an explosion, and then that company's job is to go pick up the pieces of the explosion that somebody else picked. So I don't know. What are your thoughts about from their perspective? Do you feel like there is how do you clean up the mess that's been made from this?
Man, that's a good question. Cleaning up the mess, you stick to basically, the truth will eventually come out. That's pretty much what you have to do, because if you keep engaging with that, because this is the equivalent of somebody lighting a Molotov cocktail and throwing it at your business. That's what the court of opinion, pretty much public opinion, pretty much is. You just have to wait out for the facts. It's like, look, the facts will come out. and we'll just leave it at that.
So, but the problem with that, Magic, is that there's the initial spread of the blast, right? But when you try to go back and pick up the pieces, you can only, you're not going to hit the same amount of people that initially hits. There's still this cross section of people that will still believe, the results of that initial Molotov cocktail hitting, right? So your reputation is still sullied despite nothing happening. By the way, people saying like, there's plenty of evidence. Like, to be clear, we're speaking in generalities here, right? Where I don't know enough about Linus Tech types or tech tips or in the situation. We're speaking strictly from here. So, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Like, do you at the end of this, they're like, we're open to the idea of exploring defamation, but we'd rather not, right? And some people have criticized them for that. Personally, I think they should go all in and like set an example in a situation like this. They're trying to turn the other cheek, but if somebody throws a Molotov cocktail at our business, I'm throwing 10 back. Personally, that's just me. Maybe I'm too nice.
No.
Magic.
I think that each person's response to being attacked, being defamed, being canceled, I think it's a case-by-case basis. I don't think that there's just one right way to respond to it. And I mean, Lady Desiree is the one who introduced me to you all. And when she was, being attacked on social media, we had some private conversations, which obviously I won't disclose. But the summary of what I told her was, you have to decide what's right for you to do, whether that means fighting back, staying silent, leaving the scene altogether. Like, this is your story. This is your life. And nobody can make that decision for you. And the way that she responded to being canceled versus the way I responded, there's a lot of similarities, but there were some differences there. And I just don't think that there's one right way, whether that is, giving up the fight or, like you said, throw it back to them 10 times further. When I was canceled and I lost, my job and all my sponsors and all this, that, and the other thing, I kind of went back and I basically made a statement that said these were all open contracts, which is true. So legally, I didn't have any recourse. And so I decided to leave it at that, even though a lot of people were saying, you should call them out or you should have a lawsuit, this, that, and the other thing. For me, it was the right decision based off of my goals to not try to attack back. And with that, I was giving up the idea. I chose to not defend myself, basically, in the face of all of these accusations. In a sense, I felt like the ones that were trying to bully me and push me out, it would only be kind of fueling the fire for me to fight back. And at that time, I just decided I was going to stand my ground. I wasn't going to admit to something I hadn't done, but I wasn't going to feed into the controversy any further. So I don't know if that answers your question. I think that it's honestly a case-by-case basis whether you decide to fight back or seek even legal recourse. I think it depends on what that situation looks like.
And there's different ways to fight,
Yeah.
People may think that you're giving up, and it's just like, no, I'm actually rethinking my strategy, how to come back at you.
Sure.
Yeah. This oh, you're muted, Craig. This like resonates with me super. I feel like I'm thinking to myself, gosh, is what I did defamation? If I come out and say I lost my job, this is what it's felt like in that initial video. I was like, yeah, this has sucked. Now, perhaps I understand. Perhaps that's one reason I am hesitant to identify anyone. But would that qualify as defamation? Just sharing my story, my experiences? Because you could say, well, now there's a large amount of people online that want to go protest the school or whatever it is. But what's the alternative? I mean, but is that the same thing as saying, hey, they committed these crimes? Or I'm trying to say, like, they didn't do anything illegal, which is what's very sneaky about it in some cases. Like, they're careful.
Right. Yeah, they know what they're doing until they mess up. So, well, like I said, it's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this, not specifically about the Linus Tech Tips situation, but just as a broader societal thing. We've seen this continuously, and as pointed out, by Sparta Chris, as I recall, the sad incident where a man took his own life after he was accused by another man he rejected because the accused was straight. It was back during the Me Too era, right? And you see there are actions, there are reactions that happen because of claims like this all the time, and whether it's Me Too or whether it's employment stuff or whatever, and it's a mess. I mean, that's the only way to say it is it's a mess, and it will continue to be. But I do think that in a situation like this, where, well, okay, in a situation maybe or may not be like this, because I don't know the full situation. I just know based off of the company's statement here. But in a situation where allegations are made and they are proven false legally, I very much agree that the people who created false claims should have harsh repercussions based off that. And that's something I feel is a giant gaping hole in specifically our legal system. But you can say things, you can accuse people of things that have no repercussions if those things are not true, because they're the ones who are stuck picking up the pieces in a situation like that. So, but that's a larger discussion for another time.
Just live your life in truth, and then you don't have to worry about it. And you can just tell the truth. Don't fear the truth. If you fear the truth, you're doing something wrong.
Yes.
Can I add something real quick here, Craig?
Yeah.
If you don't mind. And this is more for Warren. Obviously, our scenarios are different, but what you said, like if you're not afraid of the truth, why do you have to hide? But one thing I told people in the midst of all the chaos was that at the end of the day, I have to live with my own conscience. I don't have to live with other people's opinions or what they say of me. And there were times that people would hurl every insult in the book at me, and I would just not accept that. I would let it bounce off of me because it didn't apply to me. And like, I am a Christian, so I have that faith to back, kind of as an extra layer of protection. But the idea that you have to live with your own self and your own conscience, not with what other people say to you. Yeah. And the other thing I would say is that when you get to the point of being the center of attention, which obviously you went viral before even this, everybody's going to try to almost like weaponize your story, and they could do it for good intentions, for bad intentions, like every single angle. They're going to want to take your story and use it towards their agenda. So I just want to let you know that like you have the freedom to decide what your story is and how you want to tell it. And even people who might have your best like intentions at heart, they don't know what that might look like for you.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Well, Lorena, just so you know, there will be a time where you get canceled, because apparently everybody here on this show has been canceled at some point.
Oh, yeah. I will be, although it's kind of careful. They'll try to call me racist as usual, or the blackface of white supremacy. Take a pick.
Oh, yes, there you go.